My name is Candy Sellers, and I have the great privilege of serving as our current IDA North Carolina branch president. I am so excited and grateful that you chose to spend the evening with us to add tools to your toolbox and learn more about this very important concept. And as Kristen was mentioning earlier, if you were not able to attend the first part of this series, we invite you to go to our YouTube channel and watch it back as well. But again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting IDA North Carolina. And I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Sinclair, who is our incoming president-elect.
Welcome. So glad that you guys all took the time to join us. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Erin Fitzpatrick. She is an associate professor in the Department of Special Education here at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Her research interests include evidence-based writing instruction and practice-based professional development. Her work has been featured in leading education journals such as Contemporary Educational Psychology, Reading and Writing, and Reading and Writing Quarterly. Previously, Erin has served as a public school teacher for 11 years and has been licensed as an elementary reading teacher. So she's got tremendous expertise to share with us. And she serves on several editorial boards, one of which is Learning Disabilities Research and Practice, also Teacher Education and Special Education, and then Remedial and Special Education. She has also served on the International Literacy Association's Writing Task Force. So writing is her love and passion, and so excited that we get to learn from her expertise. What I would really like for you to do as you listen to Dr. Fitzpatrick tonight, and for those of you who joined or go back and listen to Dr. Dashik's work, I know within the state of North Carolina, many of us have really looked for ways that we can grow our writing toolbox. So take the opportunity to really reflect on the tools that we currently have access to as part of our instruction, but also ways that we can best assess how students are responding to our instruction, and really take this knowledge that we're bringing to you as kind of a call to action. Take back, give yourselves a chance to think about what we might need more of to fill in those gaps to strengthen the practices and supports that we provide to students each and every day. So without further ado, Dr. Fitzpatrick, I'm going to turn it on over to you.
All right, I appreciate you having me here tonight, and I'm seeing a lot of student names in the audience, so that's awesome to see them here representing UNC Charlotte as well. Much appreciated. I want to talk to you tonight about self-regulated strategy development, and our first step with that is really just asking, where are you right now? I want to clarify, are you seeing my none to 5 screen? Excellent. So if you're on camera, you can give me a hand. If you're not on camera, could you answer in the chat, where are you in terms of your knowledge and awareness of SRSD? Meh, love it. So I've got some 2s out there. Absolutely none, like never heard of it. Is that true? Okay, 1 heard of it. Okay, Anna's got a 5. Excellent. Anna, I'm gonna give you the reins, okay? We're gonna make her co-host. I love it. All right, Emma's got a 1, Savannah's got a 2. All right, so we're kind of everywhere. This means we're probably going to go into a deep dive. And for those of you like Anna who know a lot about it, I hope you learn some nuance along the way toward that. Very quickly, if you're on the camera, it makes my life easier, but who in here reads for pleasure? Like, it's enjoyable. I like to do it. Look at those hands. All right, same group of people. Who in here writes for pleasure? Look around. All those hands went down. So I'm asking why, and I want you to authentically answer this. So come on the mic or somebody in chat. Why do you think that we're not writing for pleasure? Why do you think we're not writing for pleasure? You can do this. Anna says writing is complicated, and the other Anne says it takes more time. Time. Look at all the time. What else beyond time? Is there something else? It has to be perfect. Ooh. Oh. You can read and multitask, but to writing you have to be more focused. We write all the time besides pleasure. So sometimes writing's not a fun task anymore. And it makes you vulnerable. Yeah, depending on your audience, it can make you vulnerable. That's a great answer. I think, and I love that. I've thought about it. I don't need to bother to be putting it on paper. I love that. So for our kids, if we don't have teachers in the field who love writing, it's hard to find people who are going to teach writing in a way that makes them passionate and love writing. So hopefully through our presentation tonight, you'll not just figure out a way that you can teach kids about how to write within our three major genres, but a way where it's more fun and approachable for you, because teaching writing can often be very challenging as well. So I'm going to have a very brief commercial break here talking about evidence-based practices, and it's just a refresher, so we'll swing right through it. But essentially, we're looking at four different components here. We have emerging, research-based, promising, and evidence-based. And emerging means somebody does it, somebody in my classroom or somebody maybe in my school does it, and it's kind of successful. So it doesn't have any research behind it, but maybe it looks fun. There's some anecdotal evidence or somebody is telling me that it works. I often tell my students that I did an author signing in my classroom. There's no evidence around author signing, but the kids had a really big time and it was super motivational to them. That would be an emerging practice. And our next step is a research-based practice. And functionally with a research-based practice, it means there's some research. People like to throw this term around. There's some research, but it may or may not be causal research. So it may or may not have a controlled quality of research, may not have consistent positive outcomes. And multiple studies may have been conducted, multiple studies may not have been conducted. So research-based practice doesn't mean something negative, but it does mean I want you to think, I have questions about the quality of the research that this practice is based on. Sorry, wrong one. And then promising practice is a step above that. It has causal research. They have positive effects, but it's not so good that we would yet call it an evidence-based practice. So an evidence-based practice means we have multiple studies in either 2 RCTs, multiple single case designs that have high quality control, meet high quality indicators, and have rigor, scientific rigor to demonstrate when we do this, we expect you to have positive outcomes in your classroom if your classroom is reflective of this same audience. And what I'm going to talk to you about tonight, self-regulated strategy development, is very much an evidence-based practice. We're still in our commercial break of learning a little about the science. So when I came out of the classroom and moved into higher education, one of the first things I encountered that I thought, oh, this would have changed my practice was meta-analysis, because meta-analysis are scientists going to do all the hard work for you of finding out what works within an area or for a specific construct, and then breaking it down and telling you which one of these works best and why. So within that, we take all the studies together, we run some math, and then we tell you an effect size, and that's how much growth or improvement we would expect from that intervention. What's important for you to know about a meta is we're assessing the difference between that pre-test performance and post-test performance. And that's going to be the description of what an effect size is. So it's just a simple way of quantifying the difference between two groups, that began the study, ended the study, or the control and the experimental group. These are the only three numbers you need to know. 0.3 is small, 0.5 is moderate, 0.8 is large. You feel good about those numbers? Review them again, 0.3, 0.5, 0.8. All right. So now let's look at SRSD. And we have metas that report the effect size of self-regulated strategy development up to 1.3. Effect sizes greater than 1 are often unheard of within the educational community. So this is something we should be excited about. It's really making an impact when we do this with students. Let's take a look at one of those metas, and I'm going to draw your attention to that effect size column. And just extra writing time, just giving kids more time to write in school, positive effect size of 0.3. In these studies, the average amount of time was about 15 minutes. Adult feedback, very high effect size, positive effect size of 0.8 when they give intentional feedback on their writing. Tell me the answer, you know this. Why don't we have more adult feedback on student writing in schools today? What is our limiting factor? Say it on the mic, throw it in the chat. You know the answer. Exactly, Mary Jo. Exactly. Time, time, time. Perfect. So we know that that's one of the things that's missing. And we have a different strategy for asynchronous audio feedback that we can talk to you about that. Peer assistance, when they're well trained, often using scaffolds like checklist 0.89. We'll talk about grammar instruction later, but strategy instruction has an effect size of 1.02 in its totality, and SRSD disproportionately raised that effect size for strategy instruction because it represents 14 of the studies with, you can see, a substantially higher effect size than non-SRSD related strategy instruction. So I usually go through all of these data, and that was elementary. This is our middle and high school. I go through all of these data because I want administrative buy-in, and I want those teachers who are deeply into data to buy in. You can see it's equally effective at our middle and high school. When we have no professional development, we see no growth in student writing. Part of SRSD is setting product goals. You can see that has a high effect size of 0.7. Summarization skills, high effect size of 0.82. And again, strategy instruction with SRSD, again, over 1.14 in our most recent meta. So who has this worked with? This has worked with young writers. This has worked with second graders in the first randomized control trials that helped it be identified as an evidence-based practice, students with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. Then we moved it into hands of teachers and we said, can teachers implement this if they're trained to do it? Turns out they can, and they have the same amount of effect or even higher effects than researchers did, which is also very uncommon. Multilingual learners. And we even learned that varied implementation. So if teachers were implementing with various degrees of fidelity, we still have a really positive effect for the students. And the highest fidelity demonstrated the least variability. So those teachers who were implementing with the highest fidelity were consistently getting those rock star scores for their writers. Whereas the students who were exposed to more variable instruction in terms of fidelity, their writing improved, but they couldn't keep it as consistent as those students in the classroom whose teachers were implementing with high fidelity. We have behavior, and across multiple meta-analyses now, the elementary, the adolescent, students with learning disabilities, students with emotional behavioral disorders, all of those leading metas have SRSD as your most effective writing instruction that we can bring to the table to really help kids improve. And then, of course, What Works Clearinghouse called this an evidence-based practice, along with about 5 other entities. And it's an evidence-based practice today for students in grades 2 through 12. It's not an evidence-based practice in K1, although there is work, and we've so far demonstrated effective work in those grades, and that may expand. And we have people like Amber Ray using this to support kids within college. And we even have adults that are using this within a variety of settings worldwide. All of that information is usually not very persuasive to teachers. They're like, those are numbers. I want to talk about kids. And I want to tell you, those represent thousands of kids. But let's talk about a couple real kids as well. So this is in a you're going to look at some pre and post tests of a student or students who were involved in a randomized control trial. These are just their planning page. You've got Sandy and you've got Devin. Sandy on the left, if you have ever taught writing in your classroom, have you seen kids who this is how they plan? Do you see anything on the page? That's how they plan, right? Do you have these kids, right? And then if you look on the right-hand side, we've got a bit of a bubble map, but can you see what's happening in that top right bubble? Do not have very many plans. All right. All right, so then let's look at their post-test plans. And after they were taught strategy instruction through SRSD, what did their post-test, just the plans, look like? So in this case, the students created their own graphic organizer. They organized their thoughts before writing, and you can see in both cases, they created their graphic organizer. Up there at the top, they've got their checking to make sure that they have all the components. As they've laid out their plan, they're writing in the opinion genre. They have all the key elements. They have a topic, reasons, evidence, and examples. And then they have an ending. Over, you can see both of them did that. And they also have even pre-planned their transition words. SRSD instruction usually takes 6 to 8 weeks within a classroom. So within 6 to 8 weeks within one genre, this is the kind of difference you can reasonably expect to see with a student in your classroom. It was also initially constructed to support students with learning disabilities, dysgraphia, and dyslexia, and was just found to be so effective that we've now moved it into the general education as well, which is where most of our writing instruction is happening right now. Another example, Penny, sweet Penny, wrote, "I do not know an opinion essay paragraph. It is hard." Have you seen these kind of submissions when you're doing writing instruction in your school, right? So this is Penny, about 8. Hers was about 8 to 10 weeks later. So this is her plan. She's got her transition words. She's got her elements of the genre. She has not done all the self-regulation pieces on her plan here. And then this is her after 8 to 10 weeks of instruction with Penny. This is what she wrote. I'm going to give you a second and note it's not perfect, but think about where we started. What are your thoughts about that level of growth within that time period? Like as teachers, and we have a lot of pre-service teachers in here. So I'm hoping some of our in-service teachers who've really been in the classrooms and have seen what writing looks like will lean in here. And what do you think about this level of growth in writing within that time period, 2 to 3 months?
I'm just excited to see planning.
Can you comment on that for our pre-service teachers who often go out to their clinicals and tell me they see no writing or writing instruction? What do we usually see in terms of writing growth or writing performance?
Oh, a long time, several years to get to this point.
Trina asked, yes, a long time. Trina asked a great question. Over the 8 to 10 weeks, how long are the lessons or how frequent are they? So generally there are 3 to 4 lessons per week, and they can range depending on the grade level, shorter for your younger grade levels, longer for older grade levels, from 20 to 45 minutes. So you want to think about writing instruction that you can keep your students engaged with 3 to 4 times a week across that time. It is amazing growth, and it's pretty consistently amazing growth. One of my favorite pieces at the university is getting my former students sending me texts with pictures of their kids writing. And here is how, outside of a research study, it might look within your classroom. So they're reading, they're drawing their evidence directly from text that they read, and then they're creating a response to that. They're still using the same structure for the genre. They're still pre-planning their transition words, and they're drawing. You can see he's labeling this. This is going to be my evidence. This is going to be my evidence and examples. This is reason 1, reason 2. So they're labeling these pieces that are going to support what they're eventually going to be writing about themselves. And a key component of all of this, beyond just teaching them how to make a plan that includes all the part, which is an element of self-regulation, is also self-statements. And what can we tell ourselves during the most cognitively demanding tasks that we ask of students within an academic setting? So let's take a quick pause now that we've just gone through the okay, show me that it works before I'm invested enough to really learn about this, though you're here on a Tuesday night learning about it, so I feel good about who's in the room. Any questions so far about the data you've seen or the stories you've seen about the growth before we go into, okay, what is it? All right, let's get going then. So I want to kick this off with a theoretical model, and our theoretical model has the foundational writing skills and composition. I want to start by saying self-regulated strategy development is not a writing curriculum. It's not a panacea. It's not going to fix all of your writing troubles. In fact, it does not address your foundational writing skills in terms of letter formation, handwriting, and while spelling and punctuation can be addressed within the revision and editing process, it's not explicitly addressed within the initial process of instruction. What are we talking about? We are explicitly addressing vocabulary and word choice. They're demonstrating topic knowledge, but that's not going to teach them the topic knowledge. We are demonstrating through our own explicit modeling sentence formulation, all three of the common literary forms. If you think about author's purpose, right? So to persuade, inform, and entertain. So the mirror to that with writing is to persuade, to inform, and narrative. So if you think about author's purpose, we're just teaching the other side of that for writing. Organization, how am I going to put these ideas together within the format that is required within that particular genre? And then audience awareness. We are very explicit about, would this be a compelling reason for the principal, if that's our audience member, or would this be a compelling reason for a peer, if that's your audience member? Because there are very different reasons that you could talk both of those people into something, but we need to be aware of who our audience is if we're going to be thinking about how we can actively persuade them. Big philosophy, you're talking about providing young writers with concrete and specific strategies. So a complaint we often hear from teachers is they don't know how to get started. So after a kiddo has been trained in SRSD, they know how to get started. In fact, I work with a school that is only for students with dyslexia. And she said to me after the end of year one, oh, there's not a kid in this school that's afraid to write. And I thought, you have no idea how powerful that is for an entire school that's devoted for kids with dyslexia, high comorbidity with dysgraphia. We provide the students with concrete models for what has to happen inside their mind. If you think about writing like you think about reading, it's all happening inside the mind. So we really have to make this explicit and demonstrate what can we do to show the kids what's occurring. And there are so many pieces that are occurring. What's great about SRSD? Costs virtually nothing. The materials are readily available. It's completely transparent. The SRSD researchers have pretty much agreed that if you reach out to them and ask for the lessons that they used within their study, that they'll give them to you for free. That's kind of part of working with Karen Harris, who originally founded SRSD, that they will offer, your SRSD researchers will offer those materials to you for free if they've used those within a study. Super happy to do so. She also has published a book called Powerful Writing Strategies, and that is one of the textbooks that I use with my class. It's systematic, it's explicit, it's consistent, and it teaches kids how to implement strategies. Along with improving kiddos' writing, it also improves teachers' ability to teach writing and their comfort and self-efficacy with teaching writing. If I had to explain to somebody in 2 sentences what SRSD is, I would tell them it is the combination of direct, explicit instruction with intentional self-regulation, and that it's presented in a 6-step instructional framework. So with that marriage in mind, you're thinking direct, explicit instruction. So we're going to be clear. We're going to show models. We're going to create models. We're going to break apart models. We're going to provide strategies, and we're going to talk through with think alouds, all of that. Along with our think alouds, we're also going to be doing self-regulation, which means I need to tell myself things like, okay, how do I get started? What is my first step? Oh, my teacher's been teaching me a strategy. I'll try that. Self-reinforcement, when I do something well, giving myself a little credit. That was a really nice job I did here. Self-monitoring, what's the next step on my plan? What do I need to do next? Do I have all of my components and parts? And then goal setting. At the end of every writing task we ask students to do, we ask them to evaluate what they have done and set a goal for their next writing piece. We want to make it consistent within their mind to understand every single thing you write should be getting just a little bit better. You should be consistently becoming a better writer. This is good for us as teachers as we move students up to benchmark goals, but it's also great to really grow those higher writers as well, to be very intentional about meeting those goals. What are we using them for? Why self-reg? Why is that important? I've already mentioned to you that it's the most cognitively demanding task we ask of kiddos. Kiddos like to quit, they give up, it's overwhelming. If I have a emotional behavioral disorder, if I'm struggling with ADHD, it can have some issues with the disorder or disability that I'm diagnosed with that make it particularly more challenging. What does self-reg does? Self-reg reorients us to the key pieces that we need to do to be successful. It also helps kids cope with anxiety, frustration, self-doubt. I'm getting stressed out. What can I do? I can take a break. I can shake it off. I can stretch. I can do my breaths, and I can get back to work because I know I can do this because I have a strategy to be successful. We're really teaching kids to turn around their self-talk. We've had some phenomenal outcomes toward that end. In a study that we did in Atlanta, I was working with an 8th grade student who was diagnosed with an emotional and behavioral disorder. And during our instruction of self-reg, while she was writing, we were talking about what can you say to yourself? You look a little frustrated. And then she came up with something, and I was like, later, what can you say to yourself to congratulate yourself? You did something really nice here. And she like burst into tears and said, I feel so uncomfortable saying nice things about myself. And I propose to you as a teacher, if we fix their writing, that's great. If you can change their self-talk so that they're not saying negative things and are now saying positive things about themselves, if they're coaching themselves through complex tasks, that is an achievement that I would propose is even beyond writing. And I love writing. We also had that same teacher in that study reported in her post interview when we were able to publish that it changed the culture of my classroom because it changed how they talked to one another. What do we hope kids will do? Problem definition. What is it that I have to do? Focus and attention. Let me get started. Let my mind be free. Let me think of some good ideas to respond to this prompt. Strategy implementation. What do I need to do next? Self-evaluation. Do I have all my parts? Coping and self-control. Ugh, this is overwhelming. What can I do? How can I cope with this? I've been successful before. I can do this. Self-reinforcement, celebrating my successes. And through self-monitoring, we often use rockets. We have frogs. We have literally any way you want to track data. And with older grades, you can do bar graphs if you prefer that. But with the rockets functionally, they're checking to see, do they have all of the components of their writing? So for instance, with this, they learned 2 strategies. They learned the writing process, which would be pick my idea, organize my notes, write and say more. And then they had the opinion or persuasive genre, which is topic, reason, examples, ending. And if they had done all those pieces and demonstrated through their plan and then demonstrated through their writing they did that, they could color in their whole rocket. The teacher has some flexibility here. So maybe the teacher says, I also want you to be mindful of your transition words. So maybe you get to color in one piece of the moon for each transition word. Maybe vocabulary words are important to you, so they get to color in a star for every really strong word. It's just making the students be super intentional about evaluating if they included those parts. 2 interesting findings we've had. We had a researcher who took it out of high school because they were like, the high school kids are not going to think this is cool. And they probably don't think it's cool, but they actually had a drop in their overall performance when they weren't using the evaluation tool. It's as close to a content analysis as we have in SRSD right now. Then they put it back in and it works with high school kiddos. That's important. The other finding that's fascinating is teachers don't need to grade the kids' self-evaluation super critically. The fact that they go back and look at all dramatically improves the quality. So I don't want teachers to think, oh, but they didn't include the reason, but they colored in box 5. That is not something you need to concern yourself with. All right. And goal setting. We talked briefly about this. What is the point of this? It really lets them set the bar for what am I trying to accomplish in this next task. It facilitates strategic behavior because maybe my goal is to include a topic, at least 3 reasons, and support those reasons. So it's facilitating me using the strategy because it's related to the strategy. Just like any goal, it should be challenging, specific, proximal, and ideally self-selected. And if you're a teacher thinking, I'm not going to let them select their own goals, the way to control that is to give them an option of 3 goals, any 3 of which you would be happy for them to choose. And then they have self-selected something you're perfectly satisfied with them self-selecting. So we've talked a bit about kind of what is this, and now let's move into what does it look like. I'm going to walk through the 6 stages of the instructional framework. And as we do that, I have some videos that we'll watch. Want to give you a quick heads up that I work as a professor at the university. I also work as a consultant with a company called SRSD Online. These videos come from SRSD Online, but I'm not asking you to buy anything. So there's no conflict of interest here. It's just the highest quality videos that we have of this particular instruction right now. Any questions before we get on our last session with Dr. Dashik? Hit on many of the skills. Yes, under the foundational writing skills. Excellent. So big picture, these are your 6 stages. You don't have to look at all this text. We're going to dive in one by one. But your 6 stages are develop background knowledge, discuss it, model it, memorize it, support it, and independent performance. Stage 1. Activate and develop background knowledge. What are we doing there? The first thing you should be doing is conducting some sort of baseline writing assessment to see where your kiddos started, just so you have evidence at the end of your 6 to 10 week instruction. We're discussing the characteristics of all good writing. So all good writing is fun to read, fun to write, makes sense, and has all its parts. That sounds really basic, but it's fun to read, which talks about audience awareness. It's fun to write, which addresses motivation. It makes sense, which talks about topic knowledge, cohesion, organization. And it has all its parts. And that means that it has all the elements of the genre that I'm writing within. Why are we not using all those huge vocabulary words? Because those are completely overwhelming for kids, but it's very easy to say. Fun to read, fun to write, makes sense, and has all its parts. After we've talked about all good writing, we might look at some good writing within that genre. Maybe my teacher's going to read me some favorite books. For tonight, we'll talk about opinion writing, okay? You'll be talking about the text structure for the genre that you're going to be developing. So you're going to be talking about within opinion or persuasive writing, what are we expecting to find at our grade level? So in 1st grade, that might just be a topic and 3 reasons. That would be consistent with the standards for 1st grade. But if you bump that up to, say, 4th grade, we're talking about a clearly stated topic with a pre-statement of what are your reasons going to be. Probably at least 3 reasons. You're going to support them with evidence and example, which they call elaborations, and you're going to provide some sort of concluding statement. It's the exact same strategy in 1st grade as it is in 4th grade. And what's going to differ is that teacher modeling and the teacher really being able to say, what do I need my kids to do? And those are the exemplars and models they'll be looking at. We're developing the vocabulary of the genre. So for persuasive, we're talking about convince, persuade. What do these words mean? How can we get students to come into the language of the genre? You're really teaching them that. Using those mentor texts, developing relevant vocabulary in relationship to that. If I was doing opinion or persuasive writing, Can I Be Your Dog? I would be reading that. I would be reading Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. If I'm a little older and maybe I'm interested in social studies, I could be reading some of the work of our founding fathers who really brought it home with some persuasive writing. And at the end of stage 1, we'll very lightly talk about goal setting. And it's just our first introduction to what is goal setting and what's self-talk. Within stage 1, these are the things you'll be thinking about. These are the vocabulary words you might be considering: genre, persuasive, speech, support, essay, prompt. And then what is the typical practice? This usually takes about 2 sessions. We have 6 stages, and each stage has variable number of sessions, but we have kind of framed it as 6 lessons, but each lesson might take several days. So for stage 1, we would probably teach 2 instructional sessions, and those could be with younger kiddos, 20-ish minutes, and with slightly older kiddos, up to 45 minutes. Memorization, we're focused on learning our new strategy, so we have a small focus on memorization. We'll repeat this if we're noticing that our kids don't already know a lot about this genre. Fidelity, you need to have high fidelity. Enthusiasm, high enthusiasm. Your buy-in to this genre is going to get your kids' buy-in to this genre. So let's take a look at a couple videos. First, we're going to see a strategy overview, and that's just like an initial, this is the strategy we're going to be learning about. And then we'll look at an introduction to goal setting and self-talk. Let's make this big. Okay.
All right, everybody, good morning. Very happy to see you today. Today we're going to talk about a new strategy for writing, okay? And this is a strategy that we can use for any type of writing. Anybody know what a strategy is? You heard that word before? Lucas?
It's like how you want to do something.
I love that, exactly. It's how you want to do something. It's kind of like a trick or a plan. Cannon, yes?
I was going to say it was a plan.
A plan, exactly. It's kind of, how am I going to do this? What approach am I going to take? All right, so good answers. So when we're writing, we want to keep a few things in mind. And I put them up here because we want to make sure we remember this stuff so that it's fun and interesting. We don't want to be sitting around bored, and we don't want our readers to be sitting around bored, right? Agree? Okay. All good essays should be fun to read, fun to write, make sense, and have all their parts. All right? Fun to read. Do you want something to be fun to read?
Yes.
Of course we do. Do you want to enjoy it when you write?
Yes.
We do. Should it make sense, or should I be confused when I'm done reading and writing?
It makes sense.
It should make sense. And all the parts. I'm going to show you a trick for making sure we have all the parts. A cool strategy in just a minute, okay? All right. I want you to go into your folders and pull out this sheet. Should be right in your writing folders. Everybody should have one. And we have some flashcards too. I see you pulling those out. But let's start with this big paper first, okay? All right, this is the strategy that we use for all types of writing. It's called power. All right, can you make some power muscles for me? Power, all right? I know it's not spelled exactly how we spell power, but we're going to call it power today because we know that word and because it makes us powerful writers, all right? Ooh, I can see the strength already. Okay, let's learn what these parts mean, all right? First we have P, which stands for what? Who can read it on there for me? Scarlett?
Pick my idea or pick apart the prompt.
Pick my idea or pick apart the prompt, all right? That's the first thing we do for all types of writing, all right? What is the next thing we do, the O? Ben?
Organize my notes.
Organize my notes, okay? O, organize my notes. I'm going to give you a trick for opinion writing to help us organize our notes. But next, after we do that, what's the W? Lena?
Write and say more.
Write and say more, okay? We have 2 letters left. Avi, what's the R?
Revise, check vocabulary and meaning.
Okay, revise. We revise our writing after we've written. And the E, Andrew, what's the last E?
Edit,
Okay, edit. We check what we wrote to make sure all our punctuation's correct and all our grammar's correct. All right, I'm gonna get my chant voice on, okay? Are you ready? Are you excited? Yes. I can tell you're popping out of your seats. All right, I want you to clap for me when I point to you, okay? Ready? P, pick my idea. O, organize my notes. W, write and say more. R, E, revise and edit. Powerful writing. Okay, that was not my best work. Okay, let me show you how it should be. Miss Erin, you can help me. P, pick my idea. O, organize my notes. W, write and say more. R, E, revise and edit. Powerful writing. Is that so?
As a note, the chants are completely up to you, and most schools make up their own.
Cheesy, or is that pretty good? Okay, we'll go with it for now. It's a little cheesy, but maybe we can think about this part and how we want to do it, okay? But I want us to remember that power gives us power for powerful writing. That's how we do all good writing, is starting with power, okay? All right. Now, you see this tree over here? It's not an actual tree, but it says tree. See if you have an anchor chart in your writing folder that says tree. Should be pretty close to the top. All right? Okay, so power is what we use for all types of writing, right? Now, when we do opinion writing, we're going to use tree for this piece here, for the O. All right, everybody make a big O for me so we remember this. We're going to use tree to help us O, organize our notes. Tree is a special trick just for opinion writing. What's an opinion? Who can tell me? Scarlett?
The way that you feel about something.
Yeah, it's what you feel or think about something, okay? Have we heard the term persuasive before? Okay, some people have heard persuade. What about convince? Yeah, we've heard that one, okay? So all these things mean the same thing, to give our opinion, to persuade, to convince. So that's the type of writing we're going to be working on, okay? Now, when we're doing opinion writing, we need good reasons. We need good reasons for why we think what we think, right? Okay, so let's look at the tree strategy. The first thing we need is our T topic sentence. State your belief. That's where we give our opinion, all right? I'm going to say what I think about that topic. R, reasons, give at least 3. Okay, we're going to try to have 3. Why do you think we want 3? Where's that a good place to go? Brayden. Yeah, those are good body paragraphs, right? That can be the beginning of our body paragraph. Okay, Avi, did you have something else?
Yeah, like, you can make a strong argument using at least 3.
Make a strong argument with 3, right? That gives us a few reasons why other people should agree with us or why they should think what we're thinking. Good point. Now, for each of our reasons, we need a little bit more in those body paragraphs that Brayden was mentioning. So we add some explanations, say more about each reason. Okay, so we have our topic sentence, our reasons, say more about why we believe this. Our explanations say more about our reasons. Does that make sense? Yeah. Give me a rank. Yeah, okay. Okay, sum up in the middle, sum up. We'll look at some examples and that'll really help us see what explanations are, okay? Last but not least, what do we finish with? An ending, okay? That makes sense to us. And in the ending, we wrap it up right. Ben?
Is it like a concluding sentence?
That's exactly what it is. Great job. The ending is our concluding sentence where we remind everybody what we talked about and why they should agree with our opinion, okay? So let's take a minute, pull out your tree flashcards. All right, and I want you to turn with your partner and let's practice quizzing. Okay, I'm gonna give you a quick example. Let me see these flashcards.
All right, and we'll pause right there. And functionally, this is not a part of SRSD that teachers have a hard time with. This feels like regular instruction, right? We're doing some direct, explicit instruction of some new strategies. If anyone at this point was like, oh, that's a lot of new letters for kiddos to remember. At the beginning and end of every session, we usually have a 2 to 4 minute time frame where we review the new strategies that we're learning, the new genre. So we go over what is this genre used for? What is all good writing? Fun to read, fun to write, makes sense, has all its parts. What are the elements for the writing process or the parts of power? And then finally, for whatever genre we're doing, what is the strategy at the student level that you're going to be using? So if it was opinion or persuasive, you might be using tree. So direct explicit instruction in stage 1. And then near the end of stage 1, we're also going to be looking at some goal setting, where we're introducing some self-regulation. And this is a very light touch where we're just at first talking to them about it.
All right, friends, today we're just going to talk for a little bit about something called self-talk and goal setting, okay? So what do you think self-talk means just by the fact that the two words are self and talk, Braden? Talking to yourself. Do you talk to yourself, Braden? Yeah. Well, you don't talk. Does anybody else talk to themselves? Do you talk to yourself? All right, so the way we're going to use self-talk today is like self-talk in a positive way. So for instance, if I was an Olympic runner, I might say things to myself like, I'm strong, I've been successful doing this before, right? I might be saying things to myself to get myself psyched up to be successful. It's self-talk. So for instance, do you have something like, you're probably not an Olympic runner. Do I have any Olympic runners? No Olympic runners, but do you have something that you do that you're pretty good at? What do you do that you're pretty good at, Braden? Soccer. You're pretty good at soccer. Avi, what are you pretty good at? Also soccer. Okay, we got a little competition. Lena, what are you pretty good at? Gymnastics. You do gymnastics. You're pretty good at gymnastics. Arlette, what are you pretty good at? Gymnastics. Gymnastics, you both are pretty good at. All right. So you're pretty good at these things. I want you to think about this thing that you're pretty good at. Is there anything you say to yourself, maybe when you're about to compete or when you're about to do something challenging that's positive, like that Olympic runner says to himself? Do you say anything like that in your head? Do you say anything like that, Lena? Yeah. What do you say to yourself?
I kind of tell myself not to be scared.
Okay.
And that I've done it before, so I'm not going to get hurt this time.
Right. I don't need to be scared. I've done this successfully before. I'm going to be safe. I can do this, right? What else? What do you say, Avi?
Well, I say to myself, we can do this, we can win this one.
We can win this one. So you're doing it for the whole team, right? All right. If you'll open up and grab your self-talk planner for self-encouragement out of your folder, at the top here, I want you to just list a couple of those things that you said you're good at. And if you don't have 6, that's okay. Sometimes we're experts in 1 or 2 things. You're an expert in rock climbing? All right, self-talk is used to help us coach ourselves to be more successful in these things that we do. So often, if we're really good at something like our Olympic runner, we say positive things to ourselves, and that helps us be more effective and more successful at these things that we do well. We can become our own coach. So for those of us who are like, oh, I don't think I say anything to myself, we're going to learn some strategies of how to coach ourselves so that when things get challenging, we're like, oh, I know what I need to do in this situation. Or when we don't want to start something, we're like, oh, I know what I need to say in this situation. Now let's look at the other piece of this, which is goal setting. What is a goal? What is a goal? Who can help me out here? What is a goal? Is it Lucas? What is a goal?
Something you want to accomplish.
Something I want to accomplish. What is a goal, Ben? Can you add on to that? Lucas said something I want to accomplish.
Something that I am trying to do.
Something I'm trying to do. Sure. Braden, you have anything to add?
Achieve.
Something I want to achieve. Wonderful. So those are all good choices. Does anybody have a goal before them right now? Do you have a goal that you have your mind set on right now? What is one of your goals right now, Ben?
To try and get better at
Awesome.
hockey.
So essentially, we're just walking them through what is self-talk, what is goal setting, and we're not talking about writing it. We're just talking about how these skills are used in other things that we might already be doing to facilitate their awareness of how we use these already. So that, my friends, is stage 1. After we get through stage 1 and we're essentially doing really direct instruction of this genre, and we're walking through what do they know, what do they not know, and what information do I need to fill in, we move into stage 2. So stage 2 is discuss it. And one of our goals with discuss it is to really get the language of this new genre into the mouths of babes. So we want to hear them using the words convince and persuade and reasons and examples or elaboration or explanation. That third or that first E has stood for a lot of things across different studies. So we want to hear them using those terms, and that's often accomplished by having them look at high quality exemplars and pulling out, what's the topic? Where did the author state the topic? Now I'm looking for reasons. I feel like the author has 2 reasons in this, and I know that because I'm the teacher and I chose one with 2 reasons. So let's find those 2 reasons. And can we color code those maybe? Maybe that will help us remember those, or maybe we label them with R1, R2. Did this author explain their reasons? So we're looking at a high quality exemplar. It is key that we introduce an exemplar that has all of the elements first. We are later going to look at a lower quality exemplar, but it's important they see what a good one looks like first. We we call this backward mapping. I heard a teacher who said she did this previously. She called it reverse outlining. If you already have a practice like this within your classroom, you're welcome to use your language. It's really the systematic intentionality of it that's what matters. So with that, we might introduce graphing. So we're going to look at a high quality exemplar. We're going to look for all of the elements of tree within this. And then we're going to graph how successful that author was. Did they have all of these components? Did they have any transition words we could color in the moon with? Do they have any fancy vocabulary? Later in stage 2, we're going to look at a lower quality exemplar. If you took that baseline essay and you've looked at how your kiddos did, what you can say is, what were the particular challenges my kids had across the class, or if you're working with an individual student, what is the 1 or 2, don't pick all of them, what is the 1 or 2 problems I would like to present in an exemplar so that I can model that it's missing and potentially how to fix it. So again, we're going to put a graphic organizer up with tree. We're going to put an exemplar up, and we're going to read through that. And we're going to say, oh, they've clearly stated their topic. And maybe they only had 1 reason, or maybe they had 2 reasons, but they only supported 1 reason. And we're going to notice some missing parts. And then we're going to talk about strategy use. Stage 2 is where you get some deep buy-in from the kiddos, where they're going to say, oh, the author who used the strategy was very successful, and it was more fun to read. It was probably more fun to write. It made a lot more sense. Okay, and it had all its parts. The author who didn't use all the pieces of the strategy, it was harder to read. It didn't make as much sense. It didn't have all its parts. So what you're really doing there is getting their agreement that they're going to use the strategy, because you know the strategy can be successful. And if you know if they use it, they're going to be able to be successful as well. Stage 2, what do we have going on there? So in stage 2, between stages 1 and 2, we have what I think is the advantage that really changes SRSD from other forms of instruction, which is every child in that classroom understands all the expectations that they're going to be graded on. Every child has been introduced to all the genre elements in their inclusion. Every child has been introduced to transition words. They have heard everything they're going to be graded on. So there is no one has a benefit because of language, because of race, because of ethnicity, because of any of that. And we see that in the outcomes within the science. We do not see differential growth among groups. We sometimes see girls slightly outperform boys in writing. That is a common story. But we don't see differential groups among groups that often show differential growth in response to instruction. Up to 3 lessons usually for stage 2. With all of these are suggestions. So if your kids, you think they could probably backward map another example, and that would benefit them before we move forward to explicit modeling. Heavy on the memorization. We're starting every session with a review. We're closing every session with a review. You may repeat this as needed. We need high fidelity, high enthusiasm. And notice that bottom bar. Students still haven't written a thing. Not a thing. So we're about, what, 5 to 6 sessions in, 5 to 6 days of instruction, maybe 2 weeks. Students have written nothing. Are there any teachers in the room that are like, I have a concern? We always have a concern during PD at this point when they realize, what do you mean kids aren't writing anything? Anybody want to voice the concern teachers usually have? Generally speaking, districts often require a certain number of grades, or parents have an agreement to have a certain number of grades per week. But there are a variety of things you could be assessing during these two genres. You can be evaluating their knowledge of the components of the new genre, their understanding of why we use the new genre. You could have them working with their strategy. You could have them, after you've trained them a few times, demonstrate backward mapping and using the new strategy, or filling out a graphic organizer with it. So let's take a look at what stage 2 might look like with a backward mapping model. And this is, I think this is April.
Your room, your mess. Children should clean their own rooms. It's important for kids to learn responsibility, stay organized, and have a nice space to relax and do homework. There are many more reasons why children should clean their rooms. I bet you can think of some while you sit in your nice clean room at home. All right, so let's go through one piece at a time and let's see if we can find the parts. And I'm going to put them on this graphic organizer and organize my notes because we want to see maybe what this author, what this writer did for a plan before they wrote.
You can use some sort of pre-created graphic organizer, or you can just have them sketch it like the examples you saw from the students in the study.
Sound good? All right, what are we looking for first? We're looking for, Scarlett. Topic sentence. Okay, so let's see if this writer stated what they believe. My first sentence says, children should clean their own rooms. Well, what do we think? Is that a statement of belief?
Yes.
I think so. What's their opinion?
The
Children should clean their rooms, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. I'm going to highlight this green. You can underline it, or you can put a T next to it for topic. Or you can, if you don't have one, no problem, we can make notes, okay? So let's read the rest of this first paragraph. It's important for kids to learn responsibility, stay organized, and have a nice space to relax and do homework. Okay, so this is just saying a little bit more about that topic sentence. Let's go ahead and think of some notes for this topic sentence. If I was this author and I was planning what I was going to write, what might I have had in my head for children should clean their own rooms? What can we say in a nice short note? Ben?
That they need to be responsible.
Okay. That's our reason. That's one reason. We'll get there. How about just for this sentence? How can I make it into a nice short note? I'm going to try something. See what you think. Kids should clean room. Does that work?
Yeah. That's basically what I know instead of kid.
Okay. We're on the same page.
Should clean.
Okay.
Children.
I think this is good enough. I don't have to have all the words in the sentence. Do you think if I was going to write from this, I'd remember what I was talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
I think I would.
So during the stage, she's explicitly teaching note taking, and they'll get shorter. But the goal there is to teach the kids not to write incomplete sentences on their organizer, because we have some demonstration to suggest that when kids write in full sentences in their plan, they're completely unmotivated to then actually write their draft. So that's why she's focused on note taking. We want planning to be a quick activity that shouldn't take too long.
What are we looking for next? We already found the T. Now we need to find what? We need to find a few different things. Okay, Brayden?
Reasons.
We need reasons. How many do we need?
3.
We're looking for 3. We're looking for 3. We'll see if this writer had all 3. All right, in the next paragraph it says, my first and most important reason is that kids should learn to be responsible. All right, well, that clearly is a reason. The author even says it. I'm going to highlight this in yellow, okay? All right, and I'm going to make a short note for this reason. Over here where it says reason 1, you see where it says that? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to make another short note. And I'm trying to think to myself, all right, what is the core piece here that I can make into a note? Kids should learn to be responsible. How about I put learn responsibility? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
That's pretty nice and short, but does it say what I want it to say? That's enough to remember. Okay, good to go. Now, we have some other parts here called what? Avi?
Linking words.
What's a linking word? Go ahead.
So linking words are like transition words. Like they say, before you state your reason, you should say last, first, then, in addition, those kind of words.
Exactly. Our linking words, perfect. Our linking words kind of link, they connect the ideas together. They connect our reasons together. And you gave some great examples. And we have some examples as well that I wanted to show you here. You said a few, Avi. You said first, second, third. So those are some real simple ones we can use. There's some other ones we can do when we're making a comparison or contrasting ideas. There's some we can use when we're doing an example, like for example. And there's some we can do when we really want somebody to know, like importantly or consequently. All right, so you're exactly right, Avi. Those are some linking words that we can see and use in our text for more effective writing. It connects the ideas. Do we see one in this first sentence anywhere? Anybody see a linking word? Andrew? First. Okay, we see first. I see a few things. It says first and most important. Will we count that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. All right, I am gonna underline these and then I'm gonna just put them in here.
So we're going to notice those linking words. We're going to take notes for them because one of the things we want the kids to think about when they're creating their plan is getting as much information into their plan as they can to further reduce the cognitive load that's going to be necessary as they move into the actual drafting. Like I said, most demanding cognitive tasks that we're asking of kids in academic settings. So the more of that we can take off the table by having them put it in a plan and then just systematically using the plan is going to help them when it comes to ideation, vocabulary use, more complex sentence structure when they're actually doing the writing. That's the reason that we're focused right now on transition words. Also, this backward mapping is just really going to flip into their planning in the next couple of stages.
My first and most important reason. That's probably a good way to start, right? Starting with my first and most important reason. I'm really trying to convince people. Okay, what are we looking for next? We're doing good. We got a few notes. We're getting there.
Even those little pieces right there where she walked over to tree and put the pencil against R earlier and where she said, what am I looking for next? Those are part of the self-regulation to intentionally teach strategy use, to intentionally have them go back to what is the next component of the strategy I need to focus on.
What do we need for each reason? We want to make sure we do something for each reason, and that is, Deanna, how about you? What do we need for each reason?
Explanation.
We need explanations, and what do? They
say more about the reason.
Say more about each reason. Awesome, perfect job. All right, so let's see if this author included anything that says more about the reason. So kids should learn to be responsible. Does it say any more? It says cleaning their own rooms and taking care of this chore is a good way to learn responsibility for something you care about. Do we think that's an explanation? I think that's saying more about the reason, right? All right, I'm going to make this one,
Yellow.
well, I was going to make it yellow or
Blue.
orange, but I don't see orange right now.
Should make it like blue.
So we'll do a fill.
Blue.
Here we go.
Blue.
Look at that. Figured it out. All right, let's make a short note for this explanation, all right? Cleaning their own rooms and taking care of this chore is a good way to learn responsibility for something you care about.
So essentially you're seeing how she's going to walk through this entire essay. She's going to code this entire essay. She's going to teach them to how to take short notes. That is part of stage 2. She's also facilitating these conversations around what do these words mean. At the end, she's going to talk about Was the author convincing? Did they persuade you? Did they provide some reasons that supported the idea that they originally presented? Let's get back to our stages. All right. So for stage 3, this is kind of the heart and soul of SRSD. So we have given everyone of the background knowledge. We have discussed it in such a way that it's within all of our language. We're comfortable with it. We've looked at other authors do it. Now, I, as a teacher, I'm going to be super vulnerable in front of the class. And I'm going to receive a prompt. And I'm not going to bring in the essay I wrote last night and put it on the overhead. I'm going to receive a prompt and I'm going to pick apart that prompt, and I'm looking for my topic and my audience and the purpose, which is your genre word. And then if the purpose has to do with persuasive writing, and in this case it should, you're going to say something like, okay, so my teacher's been teaching me this new strategy that I can use, and you're going to take the students from receiving the prompt through planning, through picking apart the prompt and picking their idea, through organizing their notes by using the new strategy and making a plan, by explicitly using that plan to draft an entire essay in front of them. And while you're drafting and planning, you're going to be doing a think aloud as a student of, okay, so what's a good reason that supports that? Would my principal like that reason? I think my friend would like that reason, but I don't think that would be very convincing to my principal. And then when you get to the drafting portion, you're doing that self-reg piece too. Okay, so how do I get started? This is getting kind of overwhelming, and we're using some coping statements. So you're not just modeling the task when you get into the drafting, you're modeling the emotional issues as well. Because writing brings up a lot of emotions, resistance, elopement, all sorts of things. So how are we going to teach kids to deal with that? How are we going to teach them to self-reinforce and find some little successes along the way? You're modeling every step of this, and you're showing them how we put these strategies together. You're going to discuss how I could potentially change this if I was asked to do something else. So, I know that in science class, I have to do these short answers where I still have to give the topic a reason and explain it. I could use this same strategy to do my short responses that only require 2 sentences because I still have to have the same parts. We might talk at the end and say, what did you notice about what I said to myself? What did you hear me say? What did I do when things were hard? What did I say to get started? What did I say when I was pretty pleased with how things went? And we're going to take record of that self-talk. Some teachers build like a tree or a celebration chart or a self-talk chart in their classroom where kids can put the self-talk they like the most up there, and then everybody in the community can use it. Or you can have them have a little sheet of self-talk and they can use their own. They can steal some of yours. You have all the options in the world there. We start thinking about, now that we've seen this, where else could we use it? There are 2 key parts of stage 3. One is the explicit model where the teacher is carrying the load. We say we want the teacher to carry about 70% and the students to carry about 30%. Essentially, the only thing you're asking the kids for during that explicit model are things you know they will not fail at. Can anybody think of another word for Could you look at your transition chart and give me an example of a transition word? The second part of stage 3 is the collaborative model. As soon as you've done your explicit model, you're going to move into, after you've revised, edit, and evaluated, you're going to move into a collaborative model. And that's where you're maintaining the pen, but we're going to put 70% of the responsibility in the kiddo's hands. And we're going to say, okay, so our teacher just gave us this prompt. What do you think we should do? And see if they understand what is the first step of the strategy we need to use. You may prompt them along the way during collaborative model. This is kind of overwhelming. What could we say to ourselves? And you're evaluating through formative assessment at that point. Do they understand how the strategy is put together? Do they understand what the next step is? Do they understand what we need to do? And you're targeting, these people understand, these people might need more support with that. So that's stage 3, model it. Could take up to 4, maybe more sessions, less so with little kids. Our kindergarten and first graders might only be writing like 2 to 4 sentences max. So you might have less sessions required for that. What this usually looks like is session 1 is picking apart the prompt. Session 2 is drafting the full thing. Session 3 is where you're evaluating, scoring it, and setting a goal for the next one. And then you might move into your collaborative model after that. Heavy on memorization, repeat as needed. Fidelity. Teachers have a lot of flexibility in what this model looks like, because what do you want a final product in your classroom to look like? And then enthusiasm. We want you to be enthusiastic. We don't want you to be fake. Writing is hard. Kids know writing is hard. It's okay to say, oh, writing is really hard for me, because that's an experience they can emulate. And then using that self-talk and self-reg to crawl out of that writing is hard hole. So let's take a gander here at what stage 3 might look like. We're going to watch a bit of planning, just a few minutes, and then a few minutes of explicit writing.
I have picked my idea. I have organized my notes. It's time to write and say more. Like, it's ready. Like, I'm ready. And you know what else I know? I know that all good essays, we know they're going to be fun to read, fun to write, makes sense, are supposed to
Have all their parts.
I know that if I will just follow my plan, that my essay is going to have all of its parts, because my plan has all of its parts. And why is that special to me? That's special to me because sometimes I'll write something and I do all the hard work of writing, and then on the other side, my teacher tells me that I'm missing stuff. But if my plan has all the parts, and then I write and I use my plan, everything's there. So let's get to work. All right, so write and say more. Let's do this. I can do this. I can do this. I'm focused. I am ready. I've been successful before, and I have a strategy. Topic: soccer is the best sport. I know that I am writing to Coach Moore, and I know I'm writing a letter. So I'm going to say, Dear Coach Moore, soccer, how do I want to put this into a sentence? That's what I need to be thinking.
We're explicitly modeling the thinking, not just the writing.
As a writer, soccer is the best sport for students to play. Soccer is the best. I'm just going to say that directly. I'm going to say soccer is the best sport for students to play. And then you know what I can do? Cross that out because I used it off my plan. I want to cross that out too because this is important. I've told him my opinion. I have addressed what I'm doing and I've written it. I have met my prompt. I know what I'm doing. All right.
Couple things. So 1, explicitly stated the full sentence before writing it. Both of those cognitively demanding tasks. So coming up with the sentence first, writing it second. Sometimes when we as teachers write in front of kids and speak at the same time, they think that's what writing should be. Separate the thinking process from the writing process. The other thing, crossing things off makes it feel like success.
I've written a topic. What's the next thing I have to do? I'm going to use my strategy. I've already planned, so I'm going to write first. And my first reason has to do with being on a team. So I have to think to myself, how do I make that a sentence? My first reason that soccer is the best sport is because I get to play with my friends who are awesome. Back to focus, Erin. How am I going to say that? The first reason soccer is the best is because all of my friends are on the team. That's how I'm going to say it. Ooh. First, I don't like that. All of my friends. You know, I think I'm going to say it like everyone becomes friends on the soccer team instead of just all of my friends are on the soccer team. Everyone becomes friends on the soccer team. First, everyone becomes friends on the soccer team. Nice. Is it okay that that's messy?
Yeah.
It is okay that that's, it is my rough draft. It's okay that that's messy. We don't want to waste our time making it perfect and pretty because we want our ideas to be great. That's what we're worried about. First, team.
And in teacher speak, that is because we're focusing our cognitive load on ideation and cohesion, and we are not worried about being perfect in terms of presentation.
Cross it off. That's the best part. Okay, everyone becomes friends on the soccer team. Okay, we have to work together to, woo! Look at that. We have to work together to achieve success. That's exactly how I'm going to say it.
And I would just proceed to work through the rest of the plan just like that. Then let's flip it around. Let's take a look at what does the collaborative model look like that's much different than what you just saw with me modeling. So let's see what the collaborative model would look like.
Because you could also say, wouldn't it be nice at school?
Let's extend that a little bit. What if they don't have a pet at home? Some people might not. So here I'm just saying, even if you have one at home, it'd be great to have one at school. If you don't, well, it'd be even better. Now you get one at school. Do you have a pet at home? Wouldn't it be nice to have a class pet at your school? Even if I did, we could come back. All right, we're done with this. We got our hook. What now?
We state our reason number 1.
Okay, well, are you sure? Did we state our opinion yet?
Oh, no.
I don't think we stated what we believe yet, right?
Yes, we should get a class pet because blah, 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 blah.
Okay. Wouldn't it be nice to have a class pet at your school?
You could put having a pet has lots of benefits.
Yes, having a pet has lots of benefits. This is
So essentially we're relying on the students to offer us the answers at that point. Collaborative modeling teachers are very, very comfortable with. The problem is we often jump to collaborative modeling before we've done any sort of explicit modeling. Then we move on to stage 4. Stage 4 is its own stage, but it's not actually something we stop for. So you kind of jump from stage 3 to stage 5 because stage 4 is systematically embedded across all of the lessons with that brief review at the beginning and the end. I've never seen a classroom where by the end of stage 2, the children weren't running the review of the strategies. And I've seen this now in 2nd grade all the way up to in high school. So in my classroom, when I implemented it, I was a 4th grade teacher. And by the end of stage 1, I have kids that would volunteer to run these chants because I'm not really the chanting kind of person. So we get the kids up there and they get to be a little cheerleader. What are some things that might look like? These teachers probably regret being in this study because I have been using this forever and I think it's the cutest thing on earth. But the teachers made this up, and about 2 weeks later, you could hear their entire school halls ringing of this.
2, 3. P, get ideas. O, organize my notes. W, write and say more. Pow, 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 pow. P, get ideas. O, organize my notes. W, write and say more. Pow, 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 pow. P, get ideas. O, organize my notes. W, write and say more.
I love her so much. And then they were a school that decided that their kids would really vibe to the tune of Supersonic. So they're doing Tree. They changed the words a little bit and they came up with this.
Tree is on it. Hey. Tree is on it. Hey. C is for the top of the head. It should be unique. R is for reasons, and there must be 3. E is for ending, wrap it up right. E is for examine, make sure your essay's tight. Tree is on it. Tree is on it. Tree is on it.
When we talk about enthusiasm, she is who we are talking about. The kids would sing that all through the halls because the teachers were invested in it. We've also had some schools where the kids, different classes, got to make up different chants and they had contests with their chants. So it's just an easy way for kids to learn to memorize things. Stage 5, support it, has the most, hold on. I'm trying to keep track of time. There we go. Has the most teacher Decision making around formative assessment. This is when the pen finally goes into the hand of the kiddos. And it's like, all right, let me support you as we get through this first opportunity for you to write on your own, to apply these strategies independently and on your own. So it might start with a whole class prompt and asking everyone, okay, guys, what do you do first? And then a good teacher is going to walk around and check that we all got the first step right. After you've done that, I might nod you on it. Okay, what's the next thing you're going to do? And I'm going to keep track of every step along the way. Are you picking apart the prompt? Are you creating a graphic organizer with the correct genre strategy? And I'm going to do that because I absolutely do not want you to fail on the first time you try it on your own. If you think about writing, our two levers are reducing cognitive load and increasing motivation. We want to increase motivation by guaranteeing success by providing whatever amount of support is necessary to accomplish that. We are gradually fading that support. If you're noticing that these kiddos don't need additional support from you, you can back off of that a little and check in a little less often. If you're noticing these kids need maybe a small group review of the strategies again, we can go right back to that and review those strategies and maybe backward map another before I ask them to move forward. There's a lot of differentiation and opportunities for teachers to be intentional about individualization in stage 5. I want to make sure that you hear from Karen very briefly, but I also want to talk to you about stage 6. So it's very short. Good. This is the creator of SRSD.
So stage 5 supported. This is your scaffolded instruction. The big jump in stage 5 is that students begin to write independently. How long will that take? It's going to vary across different students, different genres, across expectations. Turn responsibility a step at a time as necessary for your students over to them. They're in charge now. You're not leading the writing anymore. You need to tell them that. They're ready. Let's see what you can do. It's okay if you don't get it perfect. We're still working on learning it. There might still be some peer planning, and then each student writes independently. These are the kinds of decisions that are up to you, but you are here for them. You are checking in, seeing how it's going, reminding students of what their goals are, doing whatever helps or supports your students might need. You may now have some students who are writing 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. Some students who are still focusing on getting 1 good paragraph. Every time they write in this stage, they self-check. You check behind them, make sure they're doing it right. But now have them partner up with a peer, and each scores the others and says what they like, what's really good, what they think could have been improved or what was missed. But furthermore, the teacher is getting really important formative assessment. Now I know what to do to scaffold this student next time. This kid is really got it, has got all the parts, and I can now push this student into elongated, elaborated sentences, and I'd like to see this student do better vocabulary. And you might say, could you sit with Mark and show how you do this and how you get each part in? It's amazing how good some of these kids are at doing this. We have a ton of research that shows us that when you teach something to someone else, they get better and you get better. The tutoring situation is a win-win. The data is very clear. So what can you fade? Well, first, if you've had that bulletin board up for a long time with tree, it's time to cover it or take it down. And then start fading feedback. See what the students get without you being at their elbow. They're not going to fail. You want to see what they can do. We don't expect perfect writing as we begin to withdraw the scaffolds. This is our chance to realize who needs what and how fast can you fade what. When we did that qualitative study, what we learned and underestimated was just how fearful teachers are of not doing well. So many of them talked about, next time I'll differentiate more. Next time I'll have a better idea of my speed and who needs what. Next time I'll be willing to be more creative. Turn responsibility over to them. They're in charge now.
All right, so that's essentially what you're looking at in stage 5. And then stage 6 is independent performance. So that is when we move into fully pulling away all of the scaffolds, fully supporting independent performance, monitoring their use. If kids are still doing self-reg out loud, telling them, so usually we say that in our head. And then where else can I use this? As teachers, once you've taught a genre, you want to periodically revisit that genre while you're teaching new genres to make sure that the students have all of the opportunities. So that is the end of my presentation. I have one slide that I'm going to pull up about progression, but I know that you're also going to want some time for questions. So I didn't leave you much. Go ahead, Kristen or Candy.
Sure, yes. So we're coming to the end of our time, but if you want to put a few questions in the chat, I will pick a few to prioritize and read. So if you want to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and then we'll take just a few minutes.
While they're doing that, I will pull up that progression slide because I see it. I think it's important for people to see how this could grow.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
And while some of you are typing away with your questions, Dr. Fitzpatrick, thank you so much for sharing your tremendous knowledge. It's great to have you continue on the conversation that we had with Dr. Dashik, from kind of sentence level work to expanding and supporting our young writers and getting those thoughts and ideas out.
His work is necessary first.
Yes.
Yes.
So while you guys are working on any questions that you might have, Candy has put our website in the chat box. We really encourage you. We do have a ton of resources, plus access to these recordings will be tagged there as well on our YouTube channel. But if you don't have this page tagged, we highly encourage you to bookmark it. There's a lot of great resources. We encourage you to check them out, as well as thinking about being a member if you're not a member. We want to grow as a network in supporting each other and just continuing to build our capacity as teachers of language.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
As a really quick moment, I wanted to show, for those of you who are working in a school setting and thinking about, okay, but if I teach this, how do we differentiate that? So it might look like this. If you're thinking first grade or kindergarten, I'm just orally telling you a topic and my reason. I want to live in the country because there are a bunch of animals there. And then maybe I'm just adding one thing, like an ending, as I'm differentiating that. And then the next year, let's provide an example of your reason. And then the next year, and if you think about it this way, and if a school was intentional about what they expected at every grade level, suddenly one teacher doesn't have to teach everything about writing. They just have to teach those few things that weren't taught the year before. I'm not encouraging you to use this particular progression. This is just one I created. But what you could do is get together with your school and say, let's talk about what we can really expect so that we can hone in on these skills. Then if I'm a teacher within a grade, let's say I'm here on this one and I need to grow some of my higher writers, what am I going to look for? What are the skills that teachers going to have to teach them next year? That's where I'm going to start. So we're all really a team in helping with this kind of progression. Okay.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, it looks like there's a lot of gratitude in the chat. Probably not as many questions tonight. So again, thank you on behalf of Dr. Fitzpatrick, on behalf of IDA North Carolina, for being here. And thank you to our community for